Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today we are looking at the One Piece, um, the Going Merry pirate ship. So here we have the big set, the one I really wanted, mainly because we don't get a lot of pirate ships, and I figured what, for doing any D&D or anything else, and just having fun putting this together, here we are. Now this is a little bit more on the expensive side, so here we go. It does come with Monkey Luffy, Zoro, Nami, Yus- Usopp, and Sanji. Um, Not entirely certain of all the different characters. Of course, I've seen Luffy many of times. Nami, I've seen all over the place, and of course, they've usually got her drawn in very adult themes. The other couple here I'm not so certain of. I think Zoro is a sword master. So I think I saw him. Like I said, I saw a couple episodes, so I've seen just a little bit, but I'm not entirely certain of all the characters. I really haven't gotten into all that, but I think Zoro is a sword master. But I have not gotten these two characters as of yet, but we will get into this having a nice pirate ship, and we'll see how big this gets. And when we get to the end, I will actually drag out one of the other pirate ships that they have as a creator, which, for me locally, I can still find it, but otherwise, uh, um, it might become it kind of interesting wherever you can find it and for whatever price tag, if that's something that you're looking at or whatever. But, just here we are with One Piece, getting this going. And of course, he's got his iconic sail there with his skull and crossbones, with his hat, his iconic hat. So, and I'm watching a cat trying to walk on top of a rabbit cage, and it's just interesting. I'm hoping I don't see a fail here. So, all right. With that being said, let's get into this and get this open. All right. Grabbing my handy dandy little knife here. Having fun. Let's see how many bags we get out of a big set, and there are quite a few bags here. Finding a spot for the box. All right, so starting off, we grab a bag 10, so there's at least 10 different bags. I kind of cleaned up the pool table a little bit. I figured we're going to need the extra room. I started placing some extra Lego sets on the shelves behind me that you guys don't get to see, so hopefully Indy doesn't get onto the shelves and wreak havoc with everything. But we go from there. Then we have 6. There's 3. 5 can go on top of 6. Here's a 7. Here's a 2. See what else we have. We have 8. Here's 1. We'll leave that one out. There's 4. And I'm going to guess this is 9. Once I get it all kind of opened up here, now it looks like that's 9. All right. 4. Okay, and then we have some extra pieces here, mainly for the sails. Having done a little bit of pirate ships before, let's set this all off to the side. These are going to be for our sails, our ropes for our sails and that, I'm sure. And it looks like we have quite a few. And then we also have some white pieces here, probably for some guardrails or something that's on the ship. So I'll put that back into the bag so I don't lose them. But on the other hand, we'll get the book opened up and we'll see what we have in our book. Getting one all kind of opened up here and all ready to go. It's not too bad of a looking package for the book. Just trying to figure out where I'm opening it here. I think Indy's trying to say hello to Gretchen here. All right. I don't see anything else in here. I will put that in the box. So one of the key things I always like to do is usually, now I've got a garbage can sitting here. So when I'm doing little sets, if I empty out the bag like this, we empty the bag out. Now that comes off, I'll put that in the garbage. But usually when I'm doing bigger sets or whatever, just for that off chance, instead of putting this into the garbage, I like to put this into the box because, every once in a while you look at it and you don't see a piece in there, but sure enough, one will be hiding in there. So if I put it in a box, now I'm not reaching in the garbage can and hoping that it didn't fall in the bottom of the garbage so I don't lose the piece. And we'll kind of empty those out and do the same thing. So we can see all the pieces just starting here, and then we'll get into our book. All right. We do have a little flag here, as of which I did not see the bigger flag, so that might still be in the box or something. I'm sure we're going to find it here. So we do have the small pirate flags. We do have a couple stickers here. I'm going to guess that this is going to go for ropes, looking at it, and then some of the store housing, our cups and our plates and the like. So we'll have to see how that all turns out. We'll set these off to the side, just off camera, I believe. And then looking at the book itself. All right. So going from back to front, because it's nice and easy to kind of flip through. Now, one of the things that, somebody had mentioned, the older sets and the newer sets, we don't have like a nice display on the back where they actually put a lot of the sets together. So you can see kind of a city out of it. But one of the things that they have done is we do have the Netflix Lego One Piece, which is where they're getting all this from. So I don't know what characters they're changing from the original to what Netflix is doing. So just being honest with that. If I'm watching One Piece, I'm watching the cartoon. Because that's, really the iconic part. If you're going to watch it, I think you have to kind of watch the cartoon. All right, so we do have 4 sets. I've only gotten these 2 sets. I have seen these as well. The big kind of house done in a more, and in my terminology, more of an oriental looking structure here. I don't know the proper name for that, where it kind of tears up. It has that nice look to it. And then we have some sort of like a carnival looking house here. And, I don't know what Netflix is doing to compare it to the cartoon. And like I said, I've only seen a couple episodes in the cartoon. So you can roast me as much as you want. I don't have a problem with that. And then, of course, we have different wanted posters here saying how much everyone is worth. And going from there, looking at everything here, kind of at the end, showing you all the different displays and different features as we go through. And like I said, I knew that was going to be ropes or pieces that I kind of pointed out here. So looks like it's going to be a little bit of a time-consuming build. I know I won't get this all done in one day. I have other things to get done, but I wanted to get this started, and we'll go from there. We're going to have fun doing this. This is, getting some of these iconic sets that, and like I've said before, with a lot of the other collectors things I do, these are things I was never going to get as a kid. We got some basic little sets and stuff like that. I do give my parents credit. They had gotten me an off-brand. It was Tyco at the time. A bigger kind of castle set, but they wanted it so that way we could use our minds and not so much as like a model set like what this is. So these are things that as an adult I can sit down and enjoy and have on a shelf. When I do role-playing games and that, I might pull it out for whatever role-playing game because I jump all over the place, and I think you guys get to see that when I'm doing anywhere from like G.I. Joe to Battletech to Star Wars to Star Trek to whatever. We'll do Dungeons and Dragons in here and all that stuff. It's all fun. It's all just to get the guys together so we can sit around the table, jaw jack for a little while, have some fun, and there we are. But let's get into doing this one here today. So I'm going to kind of shut up and we'll kind of fast forward through me putting all this together, and we'll see how long it takes. But we'll get it going. So. right, everyone. So we got her all done finally. It's taken me a little bit of time. I don't know exactly how long it's taken me. I've done this a little here and a little there. Um, Nice ship. It looks good. It's a great model. The fact that it's in traditional. Oh shoot! Did I break something? Our anchor came off. Oh, I always do this, don't I? Okay, so when we look at this, it's got a nice flat bottom, a standard Lego thing that we do. The only thing that we didn't see is they didn't put those little flat pieces on there, so that way it rolls a little bit nicer on the carpeting or whatever. We didn't see that on here. The webbing and all that we're going to use for our sails and all that looks pretty good. Threw me off a little bit. Not a big deal. It looks pretty good. Now, I didn't grab the other ship, which is behind me, and I'll grab that here shortly. But it's just one of those things of, when we look at this in comparison to our other ship, this is its own unique design. Great ship, not bashing it. This is kind of taken off the cartoon. So it does look good. We have the nice kind of ram front here, and we have a cannon. So I want to point that out. We have ammo to load in here. I was trying to figure out what these were for, but that's our cannonballs, and it does shoot. We have a little Technic piece here so we can shoot it, and it rolls across. So something that I'm not really going to use, but I did want to show it to you that yes, we do have a little shooting, a little cannon in the front, having a little bit of fun with that. Getting to all the little sections and all that stuff, the ship is pretty decent. We do have underneath our chest here a little sleeping quarters here, so we do have a place for our characters to sleep, rest, recover. I don't know how big it is on the ship or what have you. How big this ship is supposed to be compared to how big it actually is. And then it looks like underneath our stair here, it almost looks like there's a little bit of sleeping quarters underneath that as well. So it adds a little extra play area for whatever we want to do. We do have steps going down, steps going up over here. So it is kind of nice. And, the mast is kind of in the way. And now I'm knocking more pieces off. Apparently I didn't have that bricked in very well. As good as I thought. All right. We do have steps going down, but, the mast is kind of in the way for playing with that somewhat. But it is there. I do want to point all that out. We have treasure on the front, and it's funny. I think this is really what kids would look at more as a good treasure. We have some hot dogs and some chicken and some bones and some fruit in there. So we have treasure. No real big deal there. All nice and fun, right? Okay, now I'm going to set this down before I kind of mess things up. Oh, and before I do want to point out, because I've knocked this off, we do have in the back a nice rudder. So for trying to steer the ship, we do have a rudder, and it has a classic kind of pirate ship look on the back here. So setting this down so I don't keep breaking things. Wanting to note some of the other pieces we have in here. And all right, so now that's kind of out there a little bit. Let me kind of pull this a little bit closer. Now underneath here we have some storage in that. Now we have books here for wanted posters, and on mine we do have Gold Roger, we have Arlong, we have Kuro, and of course we have Monkey Luffy, who has a wanted poster for 30 million. Kuro is 16 million. Arlong is 20 million, and Gold Dodger is kind of all faded, so I really don't know what to say for that. But, it's interesting, the fact that we have little wanted posters and all that. And they're all supposed to be random. So if you get this, you may have some other random ones on here than what I have. Just keep that all in mind. And then we have some food storage down below here. So we have plenty of food and drink for our trip. So, getting into the rest of this, then we get into the back of the ship. Now, I do want to point this out. I do have this piece left over. Now, this ended up in a different bag than the bag it was supposed to be. So I'm looking around and I could not find this piece. So luckily, out of my collection of pieces, I did have 3 1x4 plates. So I was able to put those together and put that in here. I have no idea where that piece is. So now I have a 1x4 brick left over because I had to substitute something I had on hand. But this was in like the next bag or the bag after that. So I got all the pieces, plus, a little extra here. It's just one of those things. It happens once in a while. Piece ends up in a different bag or something like that. I'm not complaining. It's just one of those worrying things when you're first running into it. It's like, uh-oh, what did I do wrong? So you're looking around and trying to figure that out. So I did get all the pieces. That's not a problem. The sails are pretty decent. And then, of course, the way that they're put up here, we have a crow's nest, so I can get one of the characters up in the crow's nest so I can look for whatever they need to look for up there. And that'll work. This pulls out here, which is, a feature that we've seen before on other stuff. And then I pop something off here. Okay. Not something I'm trying to do. I think with this being put together the way it is, I think this is supposed to connect here. That it didn't. So that's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm just trying to connect it. Otherwise, I'll just worry about it later. I had done a wrong piece in here. I had substituted this for 2 of the plates because having done one side, trying to rush and get the other side done, I missed this one up with 2 plates. So I had this a little off. So there's a quite brief spot in there where things aren't lining up and I have to kind of go back and redo it. And that's really on me, not on the ship here. So I just do want to say that. And this is kind of neat, the way that they had done this. And I guess this is probably why it doesn't fit quite the way I want it to. This is meant to come off so you can have the whole kitchen here. So I can take this piece off, or I can take the whole thing off, and then we have the kitchen. And oddly enough, they did have stoves on board ships. One of the things I kind of wondered about a while ago, they will have a bunch of sand down, then they'll have like a little stove, probably like one that you can buy for about $200. They'll have that on board the ship, and then they will actually have a little smokestack that kind of comes up, and they'll use sand as an insulator around it to make sure that it doesn't catch fire on anything else as it's going back and forth on the open seas. Something I never thought about as a kid or whatever else, but just saying, we do have a kitchen here, so it does make sense. It was actually something that they would have on board ship. And it's a nice looking little kitchen here, all set up like a little table here so they can sit and eat in the back. Not a big deal. And then this holds the mast pretty secure for our rear mast. And on the front, to add for the kitchen, this is our storage. So we have some bottles and a bucket and spoons and all the other things that you would expect. And in the very back, we actually have what looks like a couple small fruit trees or something. So that way they can grow their own fruit on board. Which would make a little bit of sense to sit here and say, hey, let's try and make sure that we have some fruit, because once they start getting deficient on fruit and that, they start getting scurvy and all the other things that we don't typically have to think about today. This works pretty good. This does just kind of slide in there once I got this all kind of worked out, and I had it working pretty good here. And once I had kind of fixed this, it just slid right in. So I don't know why I'm having an issue now, unless it's because I have the back on there. Here it is. And then with this sliding in, it's kind of a tight fit in here. So And then this has like a little piece that's got to get past. Why am I having a dickens of a time here? Oh, I see. All right, it's having a rough time because the bottom piece here has to get past and underneath, and that's why this has got that slope to try and get that down and underneath, so it kind of locks in. So hopefully this doesn't all fall apart here. Underneath here, if I can pull this down, which I really can't, it has to lock in on the bottom here. That's why these are sloped the way they are, and it fits in pretty decent. Without it, this comes off a little easier. Not a big deal. In my own collection, it's probably just going to sit here and just stay like this. But it is a nice ship. If you're getting it because you love One Piece, it's a great ship. If you're getting it because you want another pirate ship, you know, we have that, and that works very well for that as well. So no shame on any of this. Now, like I said, some of these characters I don't know very well. This one I have not run into, and he's got the slingshot here and a pouch probably for some more ammo. Nice print on here. He's got the bag on there. Bandana being more of a pinkish color. So we have him here, and I'm going to set him up on the front. And then we get our other gentleman here. I really don't know. I don't know this character either, and I'm really sorry for that. But again, he has a very nice print. Even the line going back down on the back of his kind of four-button jacket for, you know, suit coat. So I'll get him up here as well, kind of sitting there in front. All right, and now we have our Swordmaster, and he does have, and this is going to fit here at his neck, so it looks like he's got it in his mouth, and that's, you know, he's early on in this series, so I had run into him, and he's got his swords here, so we could put him out here, and he can be practicing maybe on the rear of the boat or something. You know, it's always nice when they give people a little bit of a quirk for a character. Sometimes it makes some sense. Sometimes it's just an oddball thing. And like I said, I'm going to set him on the very tail end of the ship somewhere. Maybe I can put him over here. And it is nice. I mean, we have railing going all the way around, so that works out pretty good. And then we have Luffy, and of course he's got a smile. You know, and a lot of these have a secondary face where they're a little on the gruffer side. Maybe they're fighting somebody. Again, he has a nice print in his shorts and his shoes here, and a little bit of print on the back to kind of give it a little extra fleshing out. I'm going to put him up here like he's guiding the boat. And then we have, what is it, Nami? I think that's her name. I haven't run into her in the cartoon yet that I'm aware of. And of course, I've seen plenty of pictures, just, you know, anime pictures or whatever, and then various iterations of her. So I'm sure that it's probably a lot more friendlier than what I've probably seen. We do have a couple extra pieces here, like a different hat for somebody, and I think that goes for our gentleman here, so if he wants to have his hair tied back so he doesn't get that in the way. And I have some other spoons. I think I have an extra fork here. Just some of the fun things here. And of course, you probably see some of the other figures I had because I had them in a box and I'm looking for pieces, so I had to pull them out of the box. You know, a nice set. It is a nice set. It is a little pricey, but it is a nice set. So let me get the other ship real quick, and then we can kind of judge the size quick. All right, so keep in mind now, this is another set that is still available, at least at my local Target, so I don't know about anybody else. I'm just going to pull all this stuff here closer. When we look at the two side by side, so knock the anchor off again, they are roughly about the same size. All in all, they're roughly about the same size. Different setup, different types of ships. This one's got cannons on the side and all that, and a little mermaid on the front. But you know, you get a sense of, yes, we could run these together for a little playtime, if you want to. It adds extra color and flavor for everything else. You know, we could always have some other pirate that Luffy's got to go up against. So, you know, having the fun out of it all. Like I said, they are roughly about the same size, all in all. I think this one internally is a little bit smaller, but it's a little higher on the aft castle. So, or stern castle, should I say. Where this one, you know, we have our kitchen and setup all in here, but we don't really have extra internal. Like that one's got a little bit more, but it's still a nice boat. And for those that, you know, what is it, 17 seasons that this show has run for as an anime and now on Netflix. There's got to be a lot of fans out there that really would like to have this sitting on their desk or table or dresser or whatever have you. And it is great. It really is. It's a nice looking ship. So with that being said, wonderful to get. And a great addition even to my own collection. I'm not regretting the purchase. So with that, thank you so very much for joining me today. It's wonderful having you here. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you in the next video.